Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. With the playoffs at Masters Shanghai just about to get underway, the predictions have been coming through thick and fast, certainly from players such as Zekken putting together who he believes are going to win the games, certainly between the likes of Edward Gaming and Team Heretics, for example. The way that he went on to describe, though, how he felt that this series was going to go certainly didn't go down well with many of the Chinese fans. Massive backlash, and, well, it got even worse than that, as we shall see over the coming minutes here. Yesterday, Zekken then responds to the situation, but what does this mean for his standing in China and for the teams that's standing in China in general if Sentinels were to potentially go there at some point or another, especially given what we know with Gen.G has happened over the past several years. Lots of very interesting things to talk about today. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, we saw this from Apex, a notable team obviously in the Counter-Strike world, although that's no longer the case, and of course in Valorant, they weren't far off getting through to the Valorant League last season, but of course, didn't end up well for them. Gentlemates, of course, got the job done in the end. But understandably, for many of these organizations right now, they simply don't have the financial resources to continue committing to multiple esports as they would like to. So they're actually going to pause their Counter-Strike division and, temporary layoffs required to do so. Same thing for the Fortnite division exiting the scene. So they're going all in on Valorant. That is their plan. Their Valorant team is on the road to qualifying for the VCT, so they're going to continue to do that for the remainder of the season. But yeah, if that doesn't work out, if they don't win Ascension this year, Apex as an organization might just be done, full stop, if they can't get the investment and the resources they need to keep on going as a team. Let's talk Rostermania. Marved has been removed, according to the database from NRG. I mean, look, they've confirmed that he's gone, so maybe not a massive surprise, but the confirmation that we need is, when are we going to see, what's happening with FNS and Somright? Because obviously FNS was talking about it. He was on G2 for grand total of a couple of weeks, right? Because they were like, hey, we need a co-streamer. Do you want to be a co-streamer? We'll pay you money to do so. FNS is like, yeah, sounds, but just make sure. And I imagine that FNS made this conversation clear with G2 when he signed that deal to say, look, if I get a team offer anywhere, I can just go. Like, there's no obligation for me to stay as a G2 ambassador. Like, I can just go, right? And I imagine that's how it was determined, and that is now what's going to be happening. So the boys don't need my aura, taking some days off before the grind starts, buy the best G2 bundle. So maybe he in some ways is still part of G2, but I can't imagine that it's happening for long. Massive thanks for G2, or to G2, for letting me co-stream their games. I will see you guys soon, he says. And even he was asked here by Jing, PaperX or G2, you know where my heart is, he says in the replies. So, we'll see how this goes over the coming days. But of course, Som continues to take days off, just to have a chill out session. I suppose, obviously, they're scrimming, right? So, last live 21st of May, FNS last live 23rd of May. I'm not going to lie, as this season went on, at the start of the year, I think I would have told you that FNS and Som probably will get a team mid-season, because I expected some teams to falter, maybe even like 100T, or I could see, Cloud9, some team like that, if they weren't doing so well, reaching out to FNS and saying, look, do you and Som want to effectively build this team? You can choose who we keep, you can choose who goes, and all this stuff. I'm not sure I expected it to be NRG, certainly with the roster that they formed, for them to come back in there, certainly for the players they're coming in back there for, is a big surprise, and it's a big risk, of course, as well, to that NRG team. And if it doesn't work, well, maybe then it will be time for, the coach and the manager, of course, of the team to be called into question. This, though, for Miniboo. So, Miniboo was taking a break, of course, from China, because it was going to be too hard work on him, but maybe having them made the playoffs anyway, he has decided, you know what, I feel well enough and ready to go. So, as he says, going on a little vacation from Lithuania to Poland and then to where? So here he goes flying out, and potentially I'm sure there's some investigators that have had a look up, okay, what are the flight times? How's it looking like to potentially make this route be done from, Lithuania over there to potentially Shanghai? Because that would be the feeling, is that Miniboo might be heading out there. So we'll see if he turns up in time for the playoffs. If he does, that would be really interesting for Team Heretics, and it may add further fuel to the idea of exactly what potentially Sentinel, Zekken, Zekken thinks is going to be happening in that series, and we shall see that in just a second. So it's been a big talking point, certainly from the likes of Texture and the Gen.G guys who have been out there in China. Now, anyone familiar with the Chinese scene knows how it tends to be, and if you guys aren't familiar with the story of Gen.G referring to Taiwan as a country before then apologizing a few years ago, and that means that anyone plays for G2, or anyone plays for Gen.G, sorry, in China, they are going to find themselves having some backlash. We saw this the other day from Texture. He was trying to play ranked in China, and because they realized, or at least they saw the Gen.G bundle, which he had to throw out of the map, so they didn't notice it, his teammates, because they were just like throwing the game basically, so he would lose, and talking all sorts of kind of trash in the chat as a result. And then, you know, once they realized that he was a player for Gen.G, it didn't end especially well, and there were lots of comments made as a result. Even Texture was making this comment on stream yesterday, like, we love China, but why do you guys hate us? And that's the thing. The players, I imagine in basically all cases, have no problem with China or Chinese people or Chinese players or fans or anything like that. But of course, it's, you know, the reaction and the repercussions from what was said by the organization several years ago that they represent that is still reaping its consequences. And you shall see that absolutely when we talk about Zekken. So this was said on stream now a couple of days ago, and man, this was a wild timeline. But unfortunately, I cannot say that this reaction was unexpected, because this is just how some of these fans tend to operate. So anyway, Zekken was doing his predictions. He was going through and choosing who's going to win. Picked Paper X over G2. Then he had to pick between Edward Gaming and Team Heretics. Now, Edward are the number one seed, right, from their region, but I think many would say not so convincing this Edward team lately. FPX looked quite good, but of course they didn't make it through in the ends. They did advance though, Edward, but the Chinese region in general it's not been clear they are competitive enough yet, and I think many would take Heretics as the favourites for this series, as did Zekken. However, he used the referral to, you know, I'm a China hater, right? Now, it's got to be clarified, of course, that this word is not used in the way in English nowadays, certainly not in gamer speak, than it is in regular life, shall we say. So, you know, hater doesn't really mean you hate the players or the team, or certainly not the country, because that's not even the implication in the first place. Even if he did mean that he hates, you know, something, he's referring to the region, not the country and like the population of the country. But he's not even saying that he hates them, because what he's saying is that he doubts them, right? It's the same thing as when you say, you know, I'm like an NA hater or EU hater, or I'm like a, you know, 100T hater. I don't hate the team or the players or the fans or anything like that, but I just doubt the team is going to be any good. That's just how it's used nowadays. And, you know, maybe Zekken should have known better or whatever, but I don't really think that's even a fair analysis. I just think people unfairly have taken this way too far. So basically his point was, I'm not really convinced by the Chinese region, but the way that he said it is in, you know, North America gamer speak, I'm a China hater, didn't go down especially well, as you can maybe expect. So I'm also happy that Zekken left this tweet up, by the way, because this was the one that he was getting the replies to. And let me just scroll through this, because Zekken responds, and as we'll obviously discuss in a second, but this was wild. So, you know, Jerome comes out and kind of explains the cultural translation issue, although he was catching lots of flack in the replies as a result. So these are the replies, right? You know, I'm in Shanghai, where are you? And then we get this, the Bobo hater thing. So I think what's happening here is that Zekken is Filipino, right, by origin, and I believe that Bobo means like dumb or idiot or something in Filipino, and, well, they're also using just the monkey stuff, and you get stuff like this, right, and I believe this is just Chinese fans being racist to Southeast Asians, basically, and Filipino people, because this was everywhere. I thought it was so outrageous. These section of the Chinese fans will get absolute uproar if they feel like a player is being racist to them, even if they're not, because that's the implication, right? The Zekken was like China hater, therefore he hates Chinese people, which obviously isn't like true. I can understand why some people may see it that way from like the cultural translation problem, but it's clearly not what he meant at all. And unfortunately, these individuals will, you know, complain and like get an absolute uproar that they are being abused racially in some way, and then be very happy doing exactly the same thing, if not worse, back the other way. Like, you get all this stuff, I'm a Bobo hater, and like all these replies were coming through, and this just goes on and on and on. And, you know, it was unfortunate to see replies like this, where people actually, you know, some of these fans actually do seem to be quite, you know, they actually liked Zekken as a player, and they felt really offended by the comments that he made, which, you know, they, I guess, misinterpreted, right? But, you know, do you know you're actually famous in the country that you hate? You ruined everything, bro. So disappointed in you, which is, you know, the ones that are just being blatantly racist, it's like, whatever, these are just idiots. But the ones that are like this, it's like, yeah, it's kind of sad that, you know, Zekken's lost fans as a result of this, which probably isn't his fault, but, you know, maybe he shouldn't have said it. I don't know. It's an absolute mess, isn't it? So sad for this, and it just keeps on going. Like, I could scroll forever here, and you will just keep, you know, finding these tweets. I'm a Zekken hater. Like, the replies are what? I mean, look at this, right? It's so outrageous. So, you know, Zekken felt like he had to respond to this, which I think is probably fair enough that he felt like he needed to respond. You know, I don't think that a lot of those people in the replies should have been getting any attention anyway, but, you know, it is what it is. We had to talk about the context in order to talk about why the response was necessary. Yesterday, during my stream, I was doing predictions, and I said I'm a China hater when I picked Heretics over EDG. No racist intention in saying that. In easier terms, I was saying that I don't believe that they're that good this tournament. Nothing against China, nothing against any of its players. Understand how when translated what I said, it comes off as very hostile. Apologise to anyone who may have interpreted it that way. Wasn't my intention at all when I said it. Got to be more careful with my words. And, you know, so I think this is a good statement here from Zekken. I also think, though, like, the way that this reaction tends to go, and also what has happened with Gen.G over the last few years, makes it quite tricky for players and even for organisations, because Sentinels, as a social media team, I'm sure that they thought about making a comment about this, like saying some, you know, some sort of quip or some sort of reply, roasting the Chinese fans or whatever, right? Just because that's how Sentinels will typically operate. But I think they probably realise that that sort of reaction and response, and even this is going to be the case for Zekken, like that one comment from Zekken, I guarantee that will live with him for several years into the Chinese region. Like, it is not going to be lived down. Whatever the context, whatever the actual truth behind the matter, whatever the apology, I can guarantee you that this will not be forgotten about by some of these people in China, and it is potentially going to affect Zekken and Sentinels in a similar way that it's affected Gen.G, maybe to a lesser extent. But I think that, you know, these fans, they don't seem to forget about this stuff, even if what they're saying is not exactly fair. So I think as a result, right, Sentinels and the team have to be kind of careful about this, because China's obviously a very important region, certainly for Riot Games. And that's when these kind of conflicts, you know, you want to try and prevent them emerging, even if the reaction was outrageous. So, yeah, intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Complicated topic, but it was entertaining, I suppose, to say the very least. Just to quickly mention, this is how the bracket looks for the remainder of the event. We have these 8 teams remaining in the tournament. Of course, Edward play Heretics. Tomorrow, though, are the first 2 games. 100T for esports, in which 100T are going to be the marginal favourites. And then Fnatic Gen.G, the banger game of the first round, really. Gen.G, I would say, are probably the favourites here to me, but honestly, who knows how this one is going to go. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
I have a question.
Say it.
Hey, we love China, but why you guys hate us?
No, nobody hates
Why
you.
why hate us?
Nobody hates you.
No, so many people. No, I was playing game. Our team Sky use dog and to me. You understand?
Yo, you met the bad guys.
Nobody.
Not mad. I'm just playing.
No, I said you met the bad guy.
One enemy remaining. Last player standing. Spike down A.
Bad guys.